The subject of today's episode is a method of torture that can be found in almost every human civilization in history, and having almost as many types of devices to implement it. Used on criminals, prisoners of war, slaves, insubordinate soldiers, vagrants, political dissidents, and, in some places, even people that attend mixed-gender parties. Usually a non-lethal form of punishment, it could easily be pushed to the extreme and used as a brutal source of execution. We'll cover just a handful of the places and times where it was carried out and the specific devices they employed to administer it. Going by various names depending on the tool used, be it whipping, flogging, birching, or even caning, the outcome was almost always the same, leaving the victim welted, scarred, and bloody. Today we cover flagellation. I'm Kevin Young.
And my safe word is platypus.
This is torture.
So people don't get mixed up. We're not talking about flatulation. Flagellation.
We'll talk about that for just a brief second at the very end. Before we get into anything, I just give a shout out to our main reference material for this episode, The Big Book of Pain, Torture and Punishment Through History by Mark P. Donnelly and Daniel Dell. I've used this book a handful of times as reference material for this show. Not everything that's in this episode is from this book, but I do use enough of it to warrant referencing it on the actual show. So, got a lot of good stuff in that book, but, you know, it is what it is.
Good. Sounds like an interesting little read.
It covers all, I mean, it covers pretty much everything. It doesn't go in depth for some things as it does for others, but it definitely covers the history of torture, especially, medieval torture.
No, for a fact,
anyway,
by my background, there's another book that people will be using for reference material for such things, but you might get a little bit more kind of hot under the collar. You know.
I've always said that if the guy in 50 Shades of Grey was poor, ugly, and lived in a trailer, people would just think he was a sex pervert.
Yeah, it's because he's rich and handsome.
Rich, he's young, and he's good looking.
And he's Irish. Well, the actor played him as Irish anyway.
Is Grey an Irish name?
No, Jamie Dornan.
The guy who plays him in the movie is.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it's really funny because he was in a movie with Christopher Walken. we tried watching it a while ago, right? And just go completely off topic as usual straight away, right? But anyway,
that's fine.
Where it's based in Ireland and it's about this whole thing to do with like a dispute over some land or some shit like that. We didn't get enough into it, but like Jamie is an Irishman, but like it's like he put on more of an Irish accent for this film. But then I'm trying to remember who's in it. Was it like fucking Emily Blunt or something? And Christopher Walken is supposed to be doing this Irish accent. Now, can you imagine Christopher Walken? Just think of Christopher Walken's voice. Now, put an Irish twang onto that. It is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I can't be dealing with this anymore. So
can't do it.
No,
can't do it.
I'm gonna look up now, Jamie, and I have to tell you what this film is because it is it's pretty fucking funny. I have to say, well worth the watch. For the first 10 minutes.
More Irish. I am Irish. Well, be more Irish.
So I'm on IMDb, but it's not giving me his list of films for some reason. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm sure. I think it's probably Wild Mountain Thyme or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's just continue on. Fuck all this shit.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, well, Dan, let's take you back to England, somewhere around the early 1530s. Let's say you are a gypsy, wandering aimlessly from town to town, scamming people out of their hard-earned coin with promises of fortune-telling and other mystical acts. But thanks to the Act Against Vagrants passed in 1530 by the choleric King Henry VIII, being a simple nomad traveling around and trying to make a living was now illegal. You are arrested and then punished quickly. Your hands are bound, and then they are tethered to the back of a cart with a length of rope. As the cart was led through the streets of the town, your exposed back would be whipped. The treatment could last as long as it took the cart to move from one specified place to another, like from the local court to the village church, or until sufficient damage was inflicted for the blood to run freely down your back and legs and leave a visible trail on the roadway.
Ugh.
This was the punishment of flagellation, or whipping or flogging. I will use various terms depending on what weapon we are talking about. Whipping, flogging, caning, all that. So, but it's all flagellation. Beating somebody with something is flagellation. So there you go.
Didn't realize that now. It's the blanket term for using a foreign object to beat the shit out of somebody.
Pretty much.
Definitely.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you're beating the hell out of yourself, or, but that's self-flagellation, which we'll get a little bit to here in a little bit.
Let's not start talking about beating ourselves here now. Come on, this is not type of podcast, Kevin. That's for the
It's
after hours
classy
show.
over here. God damn it.
That's for when we get back to the Dan show. That's what that's for. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now when I decided that we should cover this issue, I didn't quite realize how much shit there actually was to talk about. And since it's damn near impossible to pinpoint when exactly flagellation started, I think it might be easier to just cover the many different types of whips and canes that are used, when they were used, where they were used, why they were used, and what happened to your body. And it's a lot. So what we're going to go over, we're going to cover a lot of shit, but that's honestly a fraction that's out there.
Mm.
I don't get really into paddling too much. I feel like that's its own thing, because they also had a bunch of different types of paddles that could be used, especially the French, the kinky bastards.
That's a paddling.
That's a paddling. Yeah, should have just left your old picture of your old background up. And there's foot whipping, which I don't really get into that because that's kind of its own thing, which will get probably its own episode at some point. So I had to leave some stuff out. Honestly, I thought about just picking one type of whip and just, there you go, and just covering that. But I just threw them all in together and get it over with.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. This could have easily been a two-parter, but I didn't want to do that. So we're just going to kind of fly through a whole bunch of different types. And if you have questions or comments, you can email us, and I can be more descriptive through the email. Anyway, most of the time, whippings and canings were a non-lethal punishment. Most of the time. They were used to inflict pain, leaving lasting scars, show the public what happens to those that break the law, and for entertainment purposes. Many whippings were public in some way or another, especially when we get to England. They're big on letting people watch as other people are in misery. I don't.
How they kept the foot down, you see, it's still that fear. You see, it's...
Yeah.
It's all part and parcel of that shit.
Mm-hmm. You gotta let the people know who's in charge.
That's it.
Yep. So, let's go to the beginning, or at least what we believe is the beginning of flagellation. Ancient Egypt. Pretty much the beginning of human civilization. To the time of the Babylonian king Hammurabi, who reigned from 1792 to 1750 BC. Whippings were generally carried out with bundles of reeds. Now, while this may sound like a fairly mild punishment, records indicate that in extreme cases, the punishment could result in the death of the victim, usually from post-punishment infection. I can't imagine the reeds or the water was too terribly clean. The risk of infection setting into the dozens, if not hundreds, of open lacerations caused by a whip were a common side effect of whippings throughout all cultures until well into the 19th century, when we had a better understanding of, bacteria and germs and stuff like that.
But did they really care?
Not for a while. Again, for the most part, a caning or a whipping, a flogging, was not meant to be fatal. It was strictly a non-lethal punishment at a point. It finally got to there where it was non-lethal. And some cultures would actually take the measures to make sure that the victim was not, didn't die afterwards.
Yeah.
Or even during, if they had to stop and take a break or cut it short. That happened. But as we go on, they get a little bit more humane with it, as ironic as that might sound.
Very.
Yeah. So we'll go from ancient Egypt up to ancient Rome, where slaves, prisoners of war, citizens of subject nations who transgressed Roman law, and uncooperative Roman soldiers were usually the ones that were met with a fairly wide variety of different whips and canes. But it was sometimes a small part of a much larger punishment. Think of, whipping a condemned person while they are being dragged to their execution. The one thing that always came up everywhere you look that comes up is Jesus Christ getting whipped before he has to carry the cross, and all that. So, yeah. Sometimes it did lead to death, but not just the whipping. So first we have the simplest and least dangerous, the ferula, which was just a flat whip, a piece of wood, almost like a paddle, but not quite big enough. That would be fairly painful, leave large welts, but those would eventually go away. So, starting off not too bad.
Some kind of like a flexible stick.
Kinda. Yeah, like a fat stick. Flat one, a fat stick. Kinda. But then we move up to the scutia, which was a whip made of braided strips of parchment that could slice the flesh off the back of a victim like the world's worst paper cut.
Sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, so, you ever get a paper cut, take it times like 1,000 and put it on your back.
Yeah. Just imagine, even, just air alone passing across that. Right. If you get a paper cut, you just feel air crossing across. It's like, wait, yeah.
Yeah, paper cuts fucking suck. I make cardboard boxes for a living, and I get them all the time, and they fucking suck. They burn. Oh, fucking hate them. But then you have the plombate, which was a multi-corded whip, much like the more famous cat o' nine tails. At times, small lead balls or thorns or tiny slivers of sharp metal were braided into the leather, changing its name to the ungule, in order to rip the flesh from the prisoner. Then we have the flagellum, one of the only whips created to intentionally kill a person. Now, the flagellum was essentially a bullwhip. Think Indiana Jones. Used specifically to tear a person into pieces. It was often used as a weapon in the gladiator arenas, and it was said to be used to shred condemned groups of Christians to entertain crowds that gathered at the games during the reign of Nero, a man who will get a 2 or 3 part series all on his own, because he's a fucking madman. Was a madman, I should say.
He lives on forever in our hearts.
Murdered his own mother. I mean, come on. Don't get a whole lot worse.
Beating up all those crazy Christians.
Now, let's jump over to Asia. From ancient times until the fairly recent past, China administered whippings with lengths of split bamboo. Heavier and more substantial than the Egyptian reeds, there is no record of a death from a Chinese bamboo whipping. Probably because they were limited on the amount of times a prisoner could be whipped. There's a cutoff for how many times somebody can get whipped through most of these cultures. With the Chinese, you're looking at in the double digits. Some of these cultures, you're looking triple, almost into the 4-digit.
All right.
Yeah. It's gonna get worse. Now, these would leave large welts and blood blisters on the back and upper thighs. And even though it wasn't used to kill, they did take the punishment seriously. During the periods of the Manchu dynasty, from 1644 to 1911, the art of the bamboo whip was developed to its most effective. Flogging masters were taught how to use their whip by flogging a block of tofu until they could strike it without breaking the surface.
That's pretty funny. Nobody hates tofu more than me, so like, you know.
Yeah, beat it. Flog that piece of shit. But I got my
just like the Christians, nobody likes it anyway.
Dan's just walking. Is that Christians with a bunch of tofu? Get them!
Look, it's Christians eating tofu. British Christians eating tofu. Get their asses.
But you gotta admit, it's gonna take some real talent and precision to smack tofu with bamboo and not break the skin.
Yeah.
So they're trained on how to do it. Then we go to the Japanese, who also used split bamboo as whips. But as we've come to know of the absolute brutality of the Japanese of the past, can talk about a few things. They arranged their bamboo shoots with the sharp edges outward. Bamboo is if you've never seen bamboo is sharp.
Yeah.
Cut bamboo in half, very sharp. Chinese use the rounded ends to kind of spank you, like with it, I guess, hard. Japanese went, fuck that.
Go all in here.
And they turned it around. So the razor sharp bamboo would rip the flesh clean off the bone. And the fact that Japanese law stated the person could only be hit with them, quote, up to no more than 150 times, the survival of the victim was a matter of sheer luck.
That's very generous of them now, to be fair. You know, because everybody knows it's that 151st. That's the kill strike.
That's the killer.
Yeah.
That's when the bamboo comes to life and eats you. 150 times. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think we've already learned how just crazy the Japanese are at this stage. You know. Yeah. Up until just fairly recently, they took it to another level. Yeah.
I mean, they just did. So let's mosey on over to Africa, and we find the shumbok, which is a strip of animal hide, usually hippo or rhino, and cut and carved into a strip 3 to 5 foot long that tapered from an inch thick to about 3/8 of an inch thick, rolled into a cylindrical shape, making it flexible and durable. Now, later versions used in apartheid South Africa were made of plastic. But these could slice a man open with even the smallest amount of force and were used primarily by South African police during riots. But because of the danger, they were banned for riot control in 1989.
Every other country in the world, there's a riot, right? Get out the shields and the billy clubs, and they're like, cutting bitches in half.
Tear gas. Get the tear gas. Why? We can just beat them to death with these. In Botswana, Tanzania, Nigeria, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe, they prefer caning with a rattan, or a long, flexible stick made from a variety of trees, still to this day. And up until recently, Kenya and Uganda did as well. So you still get beaten with the rattan. You can still get caned in many African countries.
Again, I'm going to flog a dead horse here. But I know I've said this numerous times on here. It's all like this. You just can't beat a good stick. You just can't beat a good, it's like the whole thing we were saying about like the skull crushers and the thing that turned out looked like it was a glove opener and all that stuff. And
yeah,
show somebody a hammer, put it to their hand, and they're like, that's yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's just the simplest things are usually the best.
Yeah, it's
honestly.
Like we're watching Supernatural, and there's a scene in an episode. We're only actually watching an episode this morning, and one of the guys is like getting tortured, and his breaking point for when he starts to actually look worried is when the guy cracks out a hammer and places it again, the ball end against his knee, and he's like, "This is what I'm going to hit you. Like this is where I'm going to get." And that's, you can see he's like, "Oh fuck! Like this is me fucked." Like after everybody, like, so the simplest thing, these whole whipping and canes and sticks thing is. And you see why it's still around. Basically. Yeah.
I can't remember what movie it was. I want to say it was a Mel Gibson movie, but I cannot remember for the life of me. It was so long ago. But they have the guy strapped to a chair, and they're like using pliers to pull out fingernails and poking him with stuff and everything. And he's not giving him anything. And he doesn't give in until they get a hammer out and they hold his foot down.
Yeah.
They're like, tell us, or we're going to smash your fucking toes with a hammer. And then he starts talking. He starts singing like a fucking canary. Yeah. Which I can't stand. Feet stuff. Oh, drive me crazy. So, what movie was it I saw not too long ago? Somebody steps on a... Oh, I was watching that movie X with Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega. And a guy steps on a board with a 16 penny nail sticking out.
Yeah.
And fucking thing goes right through his foot, and I just went, ah!
Yeah, I'm like, so yeah, A Quiet Place on the stairs.
Oh yeah, when she's stepping down the stair. Oh god.
Yeah, there's plenty of things like that, like the Evil Dead, the pencil scene
into the Achilles tendon.
That
God,
the thing that gets me most about that is it's not just that, it's the twist,
the wiggling around,
the wiggle that
scene. That scene is one of the reasons I don't watch that movie anymore. I'll watch Evil Dead 2 because it's a little more. It's more funny, and I don't even worry about watching the Evil Dead.
It still has a bad enough stuff in it, like with the yeah. I don't know.
No,
I don't know. Is it Payback by any chance? Is that the Mel Gibson movie?
That could have. I think that might have been it. Yeah.
So I was thinking that might have been the one. All right, now I looked it up.
Yeah.
There's apparently a gratuitous torture scene in it. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we beat around the bush enough. Let's jump to the old mainstay of torture for which this show gets most of its content, and without it would give us almost nothing to talk about. Medieval Europe.
Yay!
Yay! We're home. That's where torture lives. Medieval Europe.
Yeah. Spanish were quite big fans of it, all right, as well.
Oh yeah, just all of them. The whole fucking continent was just eating it up.
Meanwhile, we were sitting there eating our spuds, being all innocent.
Just saying, can you just leave us alone?
Yeah.
We're just gonna sit over here. You leave us alone. Everything's fine.
One comes in, eventually leaves. Another one arrives at the shores as they're waving that class one away. Here comes somebody else. You dickhead. Fuck you, Europe. Anyway.
From the Middle Ages through the 18th century, Britain and Europe as a whole punished lesser offenses with a good old public whipping. The condemned party usually tied or manacled to a public whipping post. Like the Romans, this was sometimes a small part of a larger punishment, like spending days locked in a pillory of some sort, or lead up to a much more cruel end. Who knows? Sometimes the victim would have vinegar or salt rubbed into the wounds afterwards, both to disinfect as to ward off death, and to add a little bit more pain. I cannot imagine being whipped and then just cover them in salt and vinegar like a fucking potato chip.
Yeah. That's disgusting. Yeah, dip them in salt water after. That's what you do.
Hand sanitizer. I think everybody after COVID realized the pain, realized how many cuts they had on their hands. Because everybody was using hand sanitizer. Fucking sucks. Now, public whippings of women were abolished in 1817, and then of men in 1862, but not really been used since about the 1830s. However, private whippings of men in prison continued. Prison guards, watchmen, others in authority would use them to keep the population in check. Whips like the chain whip, which is exactly what it sounds like. A foot-long handle was attached to 3 or 4 lengths of stout chain. Now, this wouldn't always break the skin because it was so heavy, wouldn't move fast enough, and it wasn't very sharp, but if used correctly, would break ribs, arms, and collarbones.
Gotcha.
Its cousin, the jailer's whip, was a short handle with 1 8 to 10 inch chain with a 4 to 6 ounce cast iron or lead weight on the end, and it had enough force to crush a man's skull.
I always thought the concept of the chain whip thing would be like an awesome D&D weapon. I'm shocked it doesn't really have something similar in it. Like, because it just sounds bad. So,
yeah, just playing D&D. Oh, you find a chain whip, and me and Dan are just like, no, put it down, walk away. Yeah. Put it down and walk away. And then you had the bullet whip, which had 2 or 3 dozen musket balls sewn into a leather tube and attached to the wooden handle, and it was said to be just as effective as the chain whip as breaking bones.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
This was like the original sock full of quarters. Is it?
Sock full of quarters. Yeah. Hold the guy down with his own blankets and just beat the fuck out of him. Yeah. Except, lead balls. So,
yeah.
That's
What you should do is you should put some of the gunpowder in and kind of light a little bit, so every time you hit something, like it's like
English roulette.
Yeah.
You just swing it and wait to see if any of them blow up. Now, these wouldn't be abolished until about 1948, with the exception of a justice ordering them done on a prisoner that had committed an assault on prison staff. And that wouldn't be abolished until 1967, being used last around 1962.
Jesus. Yeah, you kind of... I don't know. Yeah, I think it's really weird where the amount of stuff that's still kind of fresh, if you get me.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, sorry, wait a second now. What year did you say it was abolished?
It was
57?
officially abolished in 1967.
67. So
Yeah.
put it into perspective. 2 years later, man landed on the moon.
Yep.
That's how long ago? Short time ago.
I Love Lucy had come and gone.
People were still... Yeah.
Well, look up real quick. What was the biggest movie in 1967?
Okay. Biggest movie 1967 was... Fuck. It was The Graduate. The Graduate. But it was released... It's funny enough, actually. It's ranked number 1 on it. Despite it was released at the end of the year, though. So let's say, realistically, probably Gone with the Wind. Or The Jungle Book. The Graduate came out right at the end of the year. So, it was still the top grossing movie of the year, despite the fact it came out 9-10 days before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like, in the 10 days after it was released, it grossed 104,302,000.
The Graduate? Really?
Yeah, versus Gone with the
Wow.
Wind, which was released 3 months beforehand, which only got nearly half of that. There's actually some good movies released that year. Casino Royale came out that year. The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde was out that year as well. Dirty Dozen came out that year.
Yeah, they were just abolishing being able to whip people with chains in English prisons.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, let's take a step back a few years. Thanks to the Mutiny Act of 1689, flogging became an official British military policy for disobedient soldiers. Standard sentence for minor infractions was established at 10 lashes and up to 39 for more serious transgressions. Which still seems like a lot of pain, but, could be worse. However, people rarely learn from punishment. This time you get 10, next time you get 20. Nobody wants to learn from their crimes? Well, fine, we'll move it up to 50. Still no, we'll move it up to 100, and so forth. And by the early 1700s, a deserter could be sentenced to as many as 900 lashes. And if the desertion took place while he was on guard, it could go as high as 1,500.
Why? Why? What's the fucking point of that shit? Really? Like, what? I just don't get the point.
So, October 1762, 3 men were convicted of dereliction of duty and sentenced to 800, 600, and 300 lashes, respectively. When such a harsh sentence was imposed, an army surgeon was always on hand to see that the man didn't die of the wounds, and if shock or blood loss became too severe, a temporary halt was called and the man was taken to the infirmary to recover before the rest of the punishment could commence. So,
that's just...
they're they're in the infirmary like, how are you feeling? What happens when I get to leave? Oh, they give you the rest of your lashes. Still not feeling too good. Think I'll stay in bed for a little while. Yeah. Still not feeling... Well, your wounds are looking pretty good. Nope, still hurting. Think I might die. Still think I might... I got the coughs.
Yeah,
I got
the COVID from the lashes.
You're just gonna have to leave me here. I got the COVID. Yeah, I would never be okay again. Like, are you okay to go? No, I will never. No, for as long as you ask, I will never be okay.
Fuck that shit. One of the problems with growing a beard is proper beard care. Going on a website or even to a brick and mortar store and seeing dozens of different options Whether it be oils, washes, balms, lotions, razors, butters, or just a massive amount of different companies all trying to sell you virtually the same product with a different logo. It can be difficult and overwhelming.
And even worse, see, I already fucked it up. And even worse so if you're trying to buy beard products for someone else. Well, thebeardstruggle.com has made that process infinitely easier with their beard kits and bundles.
Anything from a simple oil kit that gives you day tonic and night elixir,
to the complete beard care bundle that gives you the day and night oils, beard shampoo, beard conditioner, beard balm, and the Viking Sea Mineral Beard Mask.
the beard growth bundle that comes with the Voxter Growth Accelerator and the Derma Roller,
to Crocky Shave Kit that gives you everything you need to keep your beard short and trimmed up.
to the mother of all beard kits, the Apex Bundle 2.0, that comes with 15 different products including the heated beard brush and straightener.
And if you're still just not sure what bundle to get, you can take their beard routine quiz, and the Beard Struggle will tell you what the best beard care routine and products are for your specific beard type and price range.
The Beard Struggle takes the confusion out of what to get Anyway, the Beard Struggle takes the the reading the ad struggle. The Beard Struggle takes the confusion out of what to get for your beard or that special beard wearer in your life.
And the best part is, since it's a bundle, you save money.
And with our exclusive discount code, TORTURE19, that's TORTURE 19, you'll save even more, 19% at checkout. And with their 90-day money-back guarantee, you have absolutely nothing to worry about.
And since they never test on animals, you can feel good supporting an ethical company that also produces a quality product.
TheBeardStruggle.com. Do what's right for your beard. Do what's right for your face. Sort your fucking beard out. I just still don't get, I don't understand why, you just subject somebody to, well, I know why some people are just fucking freaks, but subjecting somebody to 800 lashes over anything, it gets to a stage, though, I'm sure, where it's just surely they'd be passed out. You've already gone beyond completely maiming them.
Yeah.
At that stage, they won't have any flesh left on their back. I know you probably move on to other parts as well, but
well, again, so the army surgeon could stop it and say he's had enough for now. He needs to rest and heal, and we'll get back to it when he's fully healed. Sometimes they were ordered, however many hundreds of lashes, and they would take as many as they thought they could handle, and then they would say, okay, you learned your lesson, and we'll cut it short. There were a few stories I saw where people were sentenced to 400 whips of, 400 canings, and they got through 100, and they said, okay, you've had enough, and they reduced the sentence down.
Just one, and I've had enough. Thank you very much for future reference.
Yeah. For future, for anything wrong I might do, I want it on record that one is enough.
Just in case you get caught for stealing an orange again or something stupid.
I won't do it anymore. Just one. Well, caning or keel hauling? Which one would you rather have?
Oh, probably the cane.
Yeah, I would think the cane.
Yeah,
because at least then somebody will stop it if you've had too much.
Yeah, it's true.
My luck, somebody would keel haul me, and I'd be halfway under the boat, and they'd be like, "I think he's had enough. Let's stop now," and they just leave me down there.
There'd be guys under the water waiting to cane you while you're going through.
Just scuba divers, old pirate scuba gear.
Keel cane.
It's just the sponge. The guy got the oily sponge in his mouth.
Yeah.
Down there, just whipping you as you go by. Kids, that's what we like to call it. That's what we call a callback.
You get a lump of wood from the keel of the ship, so it has the barnacles on it, and you do your whipping with that.
Oof.
Now that is I know, barnacle whip.
Oh God!
I'm writing that down for
just
D&D.
You're just
whip.
One step removed from Ling Chi at that point. Then
yep,
you're just you're just cutting people open.
Barnacle whip. Guess what my
Barnacle
next
whip.
character's going to be.
God damn it! I'm not playing D&D with you. You're playing a game with your family now. Save it for them.
Actually, need to order some books for that. I'll talk to you about that later.
Now, many times the floggings were carried out before the rest of the troop, with a drummer beating time to keep the rhythm of the whip steady. Drummer beat faster, they'd whip faster. He'd beat slower, he'd whip slower. You know how it works. Now, people did die from this, and for some of the stupidest reasons. During the Peninsular War, a soldier was so seriously flogged that he died several days later. His offense? Being dirty during an inspection.
So they made
Have
him
you showered
dirtier.
today?
They made him even
No,
dirtier.
not yet. Beat him! It's just, yeah. You were dirty for an inspection and now you're dead. But the American military under George Washington wasn't any better. They could be flogged for things like wearing their hat at the wrong angle, feigning illness to get out of duty, swearing, not cleaning their muskets properly, or having too little ammunition.
Too little ammunition? How would you have too little ammunition? Surely it's up to somebody else to ensure that you're given the appropriate amount of ammunition.
You would think. I just imagine American troops are lined up on the road waiting for the British. And Washington's like, fire! And they're all just shooting. And then one guy's like, I'm out!
Yeah.
Washington just yells over to the British. He's like, wait. We got to beat this guy real quick. Just hold off. We got to beat this guy just for a second because he ran out of ammunition. It'll be a minute. It's
funny because nowadays they give out to you for carrying too much, I'm sure. So you have to
I
account
would
for
imagine.
every single red cent
Yeah,
and bullet.
they think you're hoarding it.
Yeah.
Oh, how the times change.
Well,
how the turns table.
Yeah. Yep. Now they stick 50 cal rounds into a piece of leather and beat you with it instead. The musket balls just weren't doing enough for them.
Yep. Now, the British Navy of the 17th and 18th century, made up almost entirely of criminals that were essentially kidnapped off the streets, could be flogged for things like being the last one to climb the rigging of the ship and make it back down. I did not realize that when I had read that many people in the Navy in the 16 and 1700s didn't sign up to be in the Navy. They were criminals and gang members and transients and whoever they could find on the street. They just walk up to them, knock them over the head, and kidnap them. Throw them on a boat. They'd wake up on a boat, and now you're in the British Navy.
Nice.
I mean, I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's it. That's funny. It's like
we're
out in a recruit and it's just like, I want him. Okay, boom. I want him. Boom. He didn't put much of a fight. I want him.
What do you guys out to do? Oh, we're recruiting for the Navy. What do you got there? Just some 2x4s? Do you got anything? Any pamphlets or any clipboards, papers I could sign? No, just the 2x4s. Now, they would be made to kiss the gunner's daughter, which was just being bent over a cannon and beaten with a 5-foot length of rope. It was as thick as a man's wrist that had been covered in tar.
Nice.
Yeah. And now we get to the one I'm sure you've all been waiting for. The cat o' nine tails.
The most infamous one, it's
definitely the most. That and the bullwhip are the two most known whips, I would think. And bullwhip's only really known because Indiana Jones.
That's true. Yeah. I never even knew it was called a bullwhip for the longest time.
Yeah, it was just that was just a whip. That's a whip.
Yeah.
You had the cat o' nine tails, and you had a whip, which was a bullwhip.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a it was a favorite of the British Navy. Men would be tied spread eagle to an upended grating, and the rest of the crew would be forced to watch as the sergeant of Marines or the bosun's mate swung the cat. Interestingly enough, the cat o' nine tails was only allowed to be used on the main deck because the confined quarters and low ceilings of the lower deck didn't have enough room to properly use the whip. And this is where we get the not so often used term, no room to swing a cat, when talking about a confined space. I don't know if you ever heard that phrase. That's where it comes from.
So it's not about actual cats.
It's not about an actual cat. I mean, it works. If there's no room to swing a cat o' nine tails, there's probably no room to swing a real cat.
Would you want to swing a real cat?
I've had some cats I wouldn't mind swinging.
It's fair enough.
I'm not advocating for animal cruelty, but there's a few cats that I would have imagined that I would not have mind swinging around because they were just assholes.
That's more than fair enough.
Yeah. Now, the cat itself was a 9-thonged or tailed whip made of braided leather, each thong being about 2.5 feet long and having 2 or 3 knots along each. Each braid would be able to cut through the skin, and the knots would rip out the flesh. After each lash, the one administering the punishment would have to stop, untangle the braids, and clean any soft flesh stuck in them as to not hinder their effectiveness before continuing. Witnesses said that the aftermath of the cat looked like that the man had had a hawk rip pieces from their back with its talons.
Nice.
Ow.
Okay.
And these were used quite often. I keep saying 19. I don't know why. In 1759 alone, there were 4 instances where major floggings took place. Thomas Golden and Francis French were each received 350 lashes for desertion and scandalous action. James Manfield got 400 lashes for stealing, and John Gazzard got 600 lashes for insubordination. More serious crimes, such as sedition and mutiny, would result in a sentence of court-martial. And that man would have to endure the flogging around the fleet. The total number of lashes sentenced to the man was divided by the number of ships in port. The offender was rowed between each ship for the crews to witness his punishment, which could be hundreds of lashes. Surgeon, again, was present and could stop the flogging if it endangered the culprit's life, but a tally was kept of how many lashes were still to be carried out, and once the wounds had healed, the floggings would be resumed. As a result, a sentence often took months or even years to complete. What are you doing this weekend? Well, I just got out of the hospital, so I got to go get beaten with the cat o' nine tails for a while. So I'll probably be back in the hospital by the end of the week.
Yeah. No, he's fit to go back again. Go on.
You lost my spot. Oh, flogging in the Royal Navy was abolished in 1879 when John O'Connor Power brought in a cat to the Common Library so that the members of the House could see what was being used on their sailors. Called the Great Cat Contention, Power said, quote, "Mr. Speaker, since the government has let the cat out of the bag, there is nothing to be done but to take the bull by the horns." Jeez.
God, with that many, what you call it? God, why is my brain not working? Doesn't matter. Moment's lost.
This, of course, was only for Britain proper. The citizens of Australian penal colonies could still be whipped. hung up by their wrists so their feet barely touched the ground, stretching the skin in the process. They would be whipped with the cat, and then their backs rinsed with a brine. The last flogging there took place in 1958.
Jesus.
So,
it's the year my father was born. So that puts it
Oh,
in
yeah?
perspective for me. Yeah.
now, it seems crazy to think that the mid-20th century, people in first world countries were still being flogged, but in Northern Ireland, prisoners could still be whipped until 1973.
Yep.
It was 10 years before I was born. That's it.
Yeah.
At least.
All sorts of crazy shit happening up there.
At least
Always
4
has
of
been.
my siblings were already alive. Well, 3 of my siblings were already alive.
Yeah. There you go. That's crazy times in Northern Ireland. High.
Of course, I mean, it's the Irish that are always getting picked on the longest.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And I was thinking when I was looking this up and I was writing all this out, I was thinking, the Irish you guys should almost take it as a compliment.
Why?
Because, so if you're trying to control all these people, like the English had done for so long, there were certain people they gave leeway to, and certain people they didn't. Now, when you're trying to control people, you only give leeway to the people. You only take your foot off the necks of the people that you know you don't have to worry about. They didn't really worry about us too much. They didn't worry about us till really when the French started getting into it and causing a real problem. But up until then, they didn't. They're like, just pay your fucking taxes. We don't give a shit what you got. Just we're not worried about you all that much. We really aren't. Until the French got involved. So all these different colonies and all these different countries that they were, pressuring, that they let them kind of get away with doing some stuff every once in a while, or they weren't as tough on for a long time. It's because they knew they didn't pose that much of a problem. Who did they keep their foot on the throat of the longest? The Irish.
Yeah.
Because they knew that if they took their foot off of the throat of the Irish would stab them in the fucking taint with a potato peeler. They would go after them. They would. You couldn't give them an inch because they would take a mile, and they knew that. They knew that if they didn't keep going after the Irish, that the Irish would eventually stand up and say, "Okay, go ahead, let us get up real quick, see what the fuck happens." So
that's a fair point.
You should take it as a compliment because they feared you more than anybody else.
Yeah. Nice way to try and make us feel better about having an English foot on our neck, Kevin. Appreciate it. They treat us like a shit because we're so awesome.
Why were they so mean to the fucking Irish? It's like, because if they weren't, the Irish would. And eventually you guys did stand up and go, fuck off. And, at least for a lot of you. Some of you, not so much. But.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, that's just the thought that came into my head.
Maybe it's true. Yeah, they Yeah. I can see where you're coming from.
Because if they weren't afraid of you guys, and if they didn't give a shit, they just wouldn't worry about you. They just let you go, just do whatever. But anytime you guys wanted to raise up, or anytime you wanted they had to come in full force.
That's very fair point. Yeah.
Anyway, now that I'm off that tangent, staying in Europe, we head to the home of what I think, Dan, is our best and most offensive accent, France.
Oh yeah, they love themselves a bit of torture.
During the French Revolution, even though it wasn't an official punishment, revolutionary leaders could be seized by the Jacobins and flogged, like on Joseph Théron de Méricourt. It's actually it's spelled out Anne Joseph Théron de Méricourt, but I looked up the pronunciation and it's French is... It's like you take Spanish and you take Italian and you put both of them in a hat at the same time, and then you grab a handful and you throw half of it away.
It's a fair point.
Anyway, she was a Belgian singer and organizer in the revolution. On May 15th, I put down 1973. May 15th, 1793, she was delivering a speech in the Jardin des Tuileries when she was attacked by the Jacobins, stripped naked, and whipped on the ass in the public garden. She soon went crazy, refused to wear any clothing, suffered from headaches, and ended her life in an institution.
Not making any jokes.
Well,
keep my mouth shut.
The next one you can't make any jokes of. You just can't. During the Holocaust, victims at Auschwitz-Birkenau could be subject to flogging publicly during evening roll call, at first over a stool and later over a special construction called the Goat. In the main camp, prisoners were also flogged in the courtyard of Block 11. Prisoners' feet were immobilized in a wooden box, abdomen resting on the goat, and their arms were stretched forward. And SS men, or prisoner functionaries, administered the flogging using heavy sticks or a bullwhip. Prisoner being flogged usually had to count out the number of blows in German, and if they lost count, the punishment started over from the beginning. The highest number of blows was supposed to be 25, but this depended in practice of the SS men or the prisoner functionaries doing the flogging. Can you imagine not knowing German all that well, getting to 24 and can't remember 25 and they start all over?
I'm assuming that's the point, though.
More than likely, because most of the people who were there were Polish.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well they knew.
Sure, they only knew how to count to 3 in German, and that'd be about it.
Yeah.
That's usually what they count down when they shot people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
heading over to Russia, we have the knout, which was introduced in the 15th century by Ivan III. It's a one-handed whip, like the cat, but its 3 or 4 2-foot-long thongs were made from stiff, twisted rawhide rather than curled or braided leather. Each twist of rawhide had a loop at the end with an additional narrow strand of hide. The second thong was intended to rip small pieces of flesh from the victim during the flogging. To make it worse, the whole thing can be soaked in water and frozen before the whipping.
For fuck's sake. Every time you say thong, I would think of that. Is it Sisqo? Sings
Sisqo.
Thong.
A Russian executioner once said that a normal man could be dead after 20 lashes. A tougher man might make it to 25. Moose and squirrel make it to 25. Squirrel fly away. Moose make joke. I laugh. He run. And if this wasn't bad enough, they could always whip out their great knout, which was just a larger knout with metal hooks at the end. In just a few swings, the great knout could tear a man literally to pieces. Emperor Nicholas I abolished the punishment in 1845 and replaced it with the pleti, a lighter whip with 3 tails.
Oh.
So don't use that to whip. Just use this.
Hide.
Whip them with this little thing.
Yeah.
Use this to whip them. Instead of it's like,
what's the petite
oh,
whip?
see? It's tiny. Now, here in America, our most substantial use of whippings and floggings was during the slave years, kind of like in Brazil. Slaves could be whipped by their owners or patrollers, who were mostly poor white men that were given authority to whip any slave that violated the slave code, which included movement restrictions, marriage restrictions, prohibited gatherings, things like that. I don't That's really all I have about the whole slave thing, because at some point down the road, we are going to do a series on the slave trade and the tortures they went through. And, well, boy, I can only just do that once, so I'm not going to get into it now.
I was going to say, it's probably going to be the most humorous episode we will end up doing.
God, I hope not. It'll probably be
frolics.
Will definitely. Yeah, it'll be another one that Dan comes up with a bunch of dad jokes or riddles and tells us to break up the horrible things that are happening.
Yeah, I'm already looking forward to it.
Same thing.
Hey, let's also cover the Holocaust. Just while we're at it.
We will. I was about to say we're gonna do the same thing when we talk about the atrocities of the Holocaust, because
it's time for my moment to shine.
Yeah. Dan, get your dad jokes ready.
We haven't made it anywhere, and we're already going to get cancelled. That's what's going to happen.
That's a possibility. I mean, we did the Rape of Nanking, and those are very popular episodes. So I mean, if we can cover those fucking horrors, I imagine we can cover the rest of them and not get.
Yeah, I kind of held my tongue a little bit in those. Like,
so did I.
So
it was one of the rare times I thought before I spoke, and I was like, yeah. No, if I say that, it's going to be horrible. Never mind. Never mind. Caribbean countries, such as Trinidad and Tobago, they use birching, which is just bundles of branches instead of whips or single cane. Here, like down south, they would call it getting a switch. I don't know if you guys do that over there.
Yeah, you told me about that before, yeah.
Yeah. Sends you out to get a switch. It's just,
It's not I don't think it's something that we called it, unless I'm just very mistaken,
Yeah.
So
it's pretty much just, hey kid, go out and get a stick and bring it back so I can beat you with it. That's all it is.
You with your wicked slipper.
Yeah, I had the wicked slipper. So why does flagellation hurt so much? Well, because with a whip, especially a longer whip, the end is moving up to 30 times faster than at the handle end.
So if you're able to swing your arm, always hurt, to be fair. Sometimes flagellation hurts, and if it does too often, you should consult your doctor about it.
There you go. I think you're adding a T. Flagellation, not flagellation. So if you're able to swing your arm around 50 miles per hour, which isn't really that difficult to do, the end of that whip is actually moving upwards of 1,500 miles per hour. Now, obviously for heavier and shorter whips, this wouldn't happen. But even for the chain whip, that could be moving at 10 times the speed of your hand. And for something like the sjambok, which is long and straight, that would be a fraction of an inch of material moving at your body at hundreds of miles per hour. More than enough speed and force per square inch to instantly slice you open.
Yeah.
Because all you gotta do, you move your hand, you move your wrist just like that. That probably like 5 miles an hour, but the other end of that is moving at like 100 miles an hour. And that's just going right into your soft flesh.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's just not enough force behind it to properly sever anything, but you can see how that happens with items. You know what I mean? Like the whole concept. Remember, I can't remember who it was. It was something to do with people. Remember, they tied up ropes and decapitated guys on bikes. A guy on a bike.
Yeah.
At one stage, same thing. Obviously, you're driving at 80 miles per hour or something like that. You're going to have enough force behind that. But just so happens, the person hitting it has the same speed, but not as much force or enough force to pass through you enough. But yeah.
Blech. Yeah, if you tie a rope to your neck and then to the door handle of a door and slam the door shut, it's not going to do anything.
It's take your tooth out so you can give it to the tooth fairy.
Yeah, but if you tie it to a car bumper and they take off,
it's
different. Now, you would think that by now this type of thing would be long gone. Well, you'd be wrong. So first, let's head to the Middle East. Saudi Arabia didn't abolish the act until April of 2020, after the Saudi activist Raif Badawi was publicly given the first 50 of the 1,000 lashes he was sentenced for insulting Islam through electronic channels in 2015. It's still used in places like Syria, where political dissidents, POWs, and even civilians are flogged fairly regularly, used by both the Free Syrian Army and the Syrian Arab Army. In Iran, over 100 offenses are punishable by flagellation: theft, assault, vandalism, defamation, and fraud, to acts that shouldn't be criminalized at all, like adultery, intimate relationships between unmarried men and women, breach of public morals, and consensual same-sex relations. Many of those flogged in Iran are young people under the age of 35 who have been arrested for peaceful activities like publicly eating during Ramadan, or having relationships outside of marriage, or attending mixed-gender parties. In April of 2017, an unmarried couple convicted of having an illegitimate relationship were sentenced to 100 lashes each. A month later, 35 young men and women arrested in the Kazvin province for dancing, mingling, and consuming alcohol at a party were sentenced to 99 lashes each. Sentences carried out immediately. So pretty much you're going to get whipped for enjoying yourself.
How dare you enjoy your life and have fun?
You danced, mingled, and consumed alcohol at a party. Well, what the fuck else am I supposed to do? That's kind of the definition of a party.
It's like, hey, Dave, you want to go to parties tonight? Gonna be any chicks? No, thank God. Let's go.
Wait a minute, is there going to be dancing?
Yeah,
no. Mingling and consuming of alcohol? No. Okay, I think I'm good.
Yeah, let's go. It's just an empty white room. I'll just stand there.
Lashing sentences were also carried out in May of 2016 against a group of 17 miners who protested against the employment conditions as being dismal in West Aubergine province. Journalists and bloggers have also been sentenced to flogging in relation to their work. In July of 2017, an appeal court sentenced journalist Mohammed Reza Fathi to 459 lashes for publishing lies and creating unease in the public mind through his writing. 459. What? Why?
Yeah.
What?
A very specific number.
It's a specific number. Oh, I got him with 460. I miscounted. Start over. In Afghanistan, the Taliban, just a year ago, flogged 22 individuals in a sports stadium. Both men and women were given between 25 and 30 lashes for alleged crimes including adultery, gay sex, running away from home, drug trafficking, and theft. You ran away from home. No, I was just going to the grocery store. You ran away from home!
Yeah, Mr. Curfew. Whip.
In countries ruled by Sharia law, like the Maldives and the Aceh region of Indonesia, female flogging squads will punish women that have been raped because they see it as adultery.
How fucking backwards do you have to be?
I know. He raped me. Oh, you had sex with him. No, he held me down and he forced it, but still. Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just, it's stupid. Fucking stupid.
Yes, it's stupid. There stands words of wisdom. It's stupid.
It's just,
In Singapore, Malaysia, and Brunei, healthy males under 50 can still be sentenced to a maximum of 24 strokes of the rattan on the bare ass. This is mandatory for some offenses like drug or violent crimes, but also immigration violations, sexual offenses, and vandalism. In 1994, Singapore, Michael Fay, a teenage American student was sentenced to 6 lashes by the cane after he vandalized several automobiles. I remember this story fairly well. I don't know if it was a big thing over in Ireland because he was an American teenager, but this story took over the news for a long time. I don't remember exactly how long it lasted, but through the whole process, like, Singapore has an American teenager and they are going to cane him. And we were glued to the TV. We were up in arms about it. And it ended up hurting relations between Singapore and America. And he did end up getting his lashes. It's not like we bartered or got him out. He ended up getting his lashes in Singapore. And it was a big thing.
It
was the first time I'd ever heard of caning. I was 11. In religious practice, Christians have used self-flagellation for centuries to atone for sins, usually things like lust or to purify yourself. This was big during the Black Plague.
Going to a party with women and alcohol.
Eating tofu.
Yeah.
Even Martin Luther practiced it as a means of mortification of the flesh before leaving the Roman Catholic Church. And then there is, of course, flogging for sexual pleasure, which, honestly, I'm not into, but if 2 or more consulting adults, go ahead. Knock yourselves out. Literally, if that's what you're into. I mean, you do you.
Or each other, whichever.
Or each other. At the same time, both. I don't care what you do. As long as you're both adults and consenting, I don't give a fuck what you do.
Unless you're in Saudi Arabia or Iran, then apparently you're not.
Yeah, then maybe don't. Oh. Not because it's not okay morally for you to do it, but it's probably not a good idea.
No.
It's like the word of wisdom you had last time. Don't do stupid shit in Russia. Don't do sexy shit in Iran or Saudi Arabia.
Is most of your country made of sand? Yes. Don't do stupid shit. Okay.
Can you count the amount of camels on one hand, or do you need 2? If it's more than one hand,
don't do stupid shit.
Sexy things. Yeah. Don't do sexy things. All right, I know there's a ton. You got any pop culture for us, Dan?
Quick few easy ones. Things like the Da Vinci Code has the self-flagellation in it. Very famous one. 12 Years a Slave is one.
Yeah.
Of course, The Passion of Christ. Stigmata. Is it To Kill a Mockingbird? One of the Hunger Games? To Kill a Mockingbird. That's a different thing. the Mockingjay thing.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. Classic film, that right there. I especially loved the bit when Atticus Finch stabbed a guy in the eye with the arrow. That was
exactly.
One of the Hunger Games films has a well-known scene when that's happening also. There's plenty of it. Spartacus is one of them. Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained.
Yeah,
has scenes in it as well.
There's a movie called Would You Rather that has that Shambach in it, and it's pretty intense. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. It's a pretty good movie.
Never seen it.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good.
There's plenty of them. The Unforgiven.
Yeah,
The Prince of Egypt, classic cartoon. I remember going to see that when it came out. Yeah, Starship Troopers. 12 Years a Slave is a hard one to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Glory.
It's a serious amount.
Glory with Denzel Washington and Matthew Broderick. That's a really good one.
I haven't. I have not.
He gets whipped.
Yeah, and then there's obviously the biggest one of all, 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Thank you to our patrons, Willow Quinn Fowler and MX Sinister 26. If you would like to join our Patreon, go patreon.com/torturepod. You can get that free week of our cult leader tier Go on there, see what we got, see what we have to offer. If you like it, you can become a member. If not, then you just cancel and you're not out any money. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can get a hold of us, torturepod@gmail.com, or you can go Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We're on X, but I don't really do a whole lot on there, but it's @torturepod for each of those. You can donate to the show through our link tree on our socials, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/torturepod and buy us a coffee. Or even better, go to redbubble.com/people/torturepod and get some of our merch. That if you're on our YouTube page looking at the snippet, youtube.com/torturepod, you can see Dan and I both have on the torture hats. I have on the torture hoodie right now, and it's beautiful. I love it. I should have got a bigger size. I always need to remember to get a bigger size when it comes to hoodies and jackets. Yes. Bassination and White Room and Link-Chi and key hauling and outline. I always get just like an extra large, and I need to get a 2X because these are always so fucking tight on me anymore. So, but, that's a weight problem on my
I hear you.
Hint for our next episode. What do a snake, a rooster, a dog, and a monkey have in common? You don't want to know. You don't want to find out. It's nothing good.
They eat their own poop.
Yeah. Some of them. I don't know. I don't think a snake eats its own poop. I don't know if a rooster can because it's like liquid. Monkeys probably do. And I know dogs do.
Yeah. I think it was honed in on those two and then left it at that. So,
Dan, any words of wisdom?
Flagellation isn't just for Christmas. Be respectful of your partner's safe words. Especially if it's no, please don't do that.
No, please.
And no, I'm not into that tonight, baby. Yeah, and look, if your slave is acting up, just don't do it. It's not fair.
Yeah,
not very nice.
Maybe just don't have a slave. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm not judging, but yeah, don't have a slave. Yeah,
don't have a slave. If you have a slave, I'm judging. If it's a sex slave and it's consensual, then you rock out. But if it's an actual slave, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, and it's to kind of repeat myself again. Yeah, the whole thing of, if you look outside and it's mainly barren, sandy crap, don't do sexy, silly things.
Don't do sexy
stuff. Unless you're married, and even at that, then you're kind of walking on eggshells, thin ice kind of thing there. God only knows.
I still don't know. Don't know.
It's a bit of married. I still don't know. Bit of a razor's edge over there. It's kind of like, you're married. Did you look at each other? Yes. That's a paddling.
Did you see her naked? She's my wife.
That's a paddling.
That's a paddling.
Yeah. That's 5,000 lashes for blinking in your wife's direction.
Yeah. I saw a comic the other day said they had a safe word. It was repent. That's fucking great. Repent. Have I ever told you the Armageddon story, the felching thing?
Oh no!
I'll look for it and I'll send it to you. It's the best it's the funniest fucking thing you will ever hear in your goddamn life. I've known this. I can hear it in my head right now for probably 25 years, and I still can't hear it without busting up laughing. So it's a news reporter talking about what's happening in some local news, and there were these two gay guys who were doing experimenting with felching, and felching is when you stick the paper tube up a guy's ass and then put a gerbil in there.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And the guy goes, "There's a felching accident." Puts the gerbil up the other guy's ass, and he immediately screamed the safe word, "Armageddon!" And the guy cannot hold it. He just busts out laughing, and he laughs through the rest of the fucking broadcast. It's fucking hilarious. I will find it. I will send it to you, and if I can, I will post it on our Instagram or something so everybody can hear it. It's the funniest fucking thing you'll ever hear in your life. It's great. It's so good.
I can't wait.
It's so fucking good. Oh. All right. Whew. I think that's enough from us.
Yeah, I don't know about everybody listening, but I'm already tired of hearing myself. So,
take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. We'll see you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.